Hello, everyone. I am Corey Andrew Powell, and I am so thrilled today to be joined by someone I have admired for a long time as a shining example of having a dream and a vision for your life and going for it to make it happen. So I first started following him on social media a few years ago, where he'd share his dreams of moving to New York one day from his town, and which was quite a far distance from New York, I should add, and he wanted to become an actor. And ultimately, fearlessly, he did just that. And I would turn on the TV and I was like, oh my God, like he did it. And so he's making a name for himself now as both an entertainer and a political activist. So please welcome to Motivational Mondays, Hugh Jones. Welcome.
Hey, hey.
Great to have you here. As we were talking off camera, I've been like hounding you for a couple of years now, being like, I want to interview you because I really have watched you, just follow your dreams. And it's a big lesson we always want to share with people in our audience and beyond, just to go for your passion. So I'll start with asking a little background. Where are you from, and what is your ethnic heritage?
I'm from Mexico, from Monterrey, Mexico. Lived there till I was 12. Then I moved to Texas. My mom's Mexican. My dad is white, hence the Jones.
Okay.
I've had to explain and defend my name as long as I could. Wait, you don't look like a Jones. Are you sure?
Yeah,
Hugh.
yeah.
Oh, you mean Hugo? Like,
Oh my gosh. So they had to
the
Latinize it.
word.
Like,
Oh,
like,
yeah. Like that.
okay.
That's the default. The default.
Right,
Everybody
right.
defaults to Hugo because it couldn't be Hugh. But yeah.
Wow. And I never even thought that. I literally just thought it was Hugh. I thought it was a little different for a Mexican name, but I never thought it was Hugo. But in fairness, I can see why, silly Americans might might make that association. But you identify as Mexican American, ideally, I guess.
Yeah.
And so you lived in actual Mexico, or were you in Texas before you moved to New York? Where were you actually living?
Oh no, before New York, Texas. But
Okay.
I did move from Mexico to Texas.
Okay,
But
which is a
yeah,
large
I lived
community.
in the small village of Houston, Texas.
Right, yeah. I may have heard of it once or twice.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Impact flyover country.
Hmm.
No. But it prepared me for New York really well. A lot of people sleep on Houston. Austin, Dallas gets all the glory, but Houston is the liberal, progressive mecca of the South. We had a lesbian mayor for 8 years, Anise Parker. I mean, it's the most culturally diverse place in the South. In Houston, we have a Koreatown, a Chinatown, Africa District, Mahatma Gandhi District. Anthony Bourdain filmed one of his shows at one of the Indian restaurants. It's amazing. The weather sucks, and it's not as pretty as the other cities. But it prepared me for New York really well. And just let me tell you, the Nigerian population down there is huge, and it is excellent. They're all doctors, lawyers, like, oh, yeah.
And see, that's important. That's important because I know, because I follow you on social media, you are all about representation and positive representation, not just this influx of what we see when the worst parts of certain demographics are exploited. So
Native Mexicans and cartels. And, yeah.
Yes, one of the biggest things for me, I remember when I was working in retail in Saks Fifth Avenue, and years ago, and they told us about the elusive black Amex card that only the wealthiest people in the world. And the first person that I actually waited on that I saw one was a successful Mexican businessman. And
Yeah.
and let's not forget, at one point, like, was it Carlos Sim was like the
Mm-hmm.
richest Mexican, like he was like the richest man on the planet at one point
Mm-hmm.
or something. So yeah, I mean, I see in you this desire and passion to also shatter stereotypes personally when it comes to you and your representation. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, I'm a walking contradiction. Everything from my name to my color to the way that I talk. When I open my mouth, people expect me to sound a certain way, or, all these stereotypes that people
Hmm.
pin on us. That we pin on each other. I'm guilty of it too.
Yeah.
So it's important to show the other side of a person's color. Like a lot of Americans gag because I used to get made fun of in Monterrey, in Mexico, because I was too dark. And the wealth holding elite in Mexico are light skinned, blue eyed. They're all fair. So
Novella people.
exactly, turn on Univision, Telemundo, they'll be there.
Hmm.
So the school that I went to, it was a nice English speaking school, and I used to get made fun of like crazy. And Americans, they don't understand the colorism in Mexico, or that there are even light skinned people in Mexico.
Right,
Like
right.
the guy you helped with the Amex card, I'm sure was a light skin, a
He
fair
was.
skin. Yeah.
Yeah, he looked like a white guy with a tan, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
Well,
right.
which is what's so funny about my last name. Everybody Jones, but you're Mexican. That's impossible. Europe colonized, or a lot of Europeans moved to Mexico. They have all sorts of last names, from Schoening to you Bauer, whatever.
Yeah.
And in 1990, Miss Universe was Mexican. Her name was Lupita Jones.
Hmm. That's
You
so
know,
funny.
Lupita
Yeah.
Nyong'o is from Mexico.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know what I mean? So these are the stereotypes. Like, and what hurts so much, and I try not to be so critical against Americans, because I'm guilty of similar things. Mexico is right here. There's no reason to be so aloof about it. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? I
yeah,
understand Americans only care about themselves and their personal life, but you know, if I
yeah,
can change that, I will.
yeah. No, and we've had conversations, where it'll start in a chat, and then we'll have to kind of go off to the DM because because
Mm-hmm.
we don't want to throw too much fire into the into the conversation. But I agree with you on that. To me, Mexico, being even associated with Mexico and Puerto Rico, for example, is an honor, it's a privilege that America would have those relationships, especially Puerto Rico being a commonwealth. When there was a lot of ire with a particular president who,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
came under fire for how he dealt with Puerto Rico in the storm, I thought that's one of the most beautiful places on earth, and it's a commonwealth of America. We should be protecting that beautiful place and those people who are our people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing how
Mm-hmm.
just some people did not see it that way. They still see it as us and them. I'm like, no,
Yeah.
they are American. And so I think
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's America. The biggest problem with America is like the lack of education as far as like how geography works and how
Mm-hmm.
you know the social constructs of geography. I think that's our biggest problem. And you are from a state we're not from, but you lived in a state where just last week, I might add, I think a teacher got fired for like the Diary of Anne Frank, a
Mm-hmm.
particular adaptation. So, what are your thoughts on? Because it ties right into what we were saying. What are your thoughts on this attempt to sort of revisionize history and, in many cases, erase it?
So I think Republicans tapped into something really effective, and that's apathy. Nobody cares. If it doesn't affect you directly, you don't care. If it's somebody that doesn't share your religion, your skin color, your nationality, your immigration status, we just don't care about these issues. So they're playing into that. Right now, we're so divided that if they go after trans people, black people, gay people, brown people, no one's going to stand up for them. And they know it. So they can attack history. They can attack voting rights. They can attack abortion. The gays didn't stand up and defend women. Nobody did. Women didn't. Like, what hurts the most in Iran, in the country of Iran, a woman was killed by the police, by the moral police, for not wearing her hijab correctly. The country fell apart. They fought for their women. They called it a feminist revolution. That was because of over a hijab. What did we do for abortion? We didn't tear up the streets. And that's the same for other issues. So they know what they're doing. They know we're not going to turn up for each other. So it's proving effective.
Right, right. So you're saying you feel like sometimes the most vulnerable groups are targeted, and in this instance, the ones you mentioned, because there's a sense that no one's really going to stand up for them anyway. So we can really, it's fair game just to go and.
And we don't stand up for each other. You know, I haven't seen any. I haven't seen any other people other than Latin people in immigrant demonstrations. For example, you know, like
Mhm.
regular Americans don't care, and that's for so many issues. You know, and I haven't been to a gun rally. They massacred children in Texas. You know, I mean,
Right,
we
right.
don't
So you're
fight for
putting
each other.
yourself, you're putting yourself in that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
guilty
yeah,
of it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
yeah,
can
yeah.
point fingers all day, but I have my
Hmm.
flaws too. I do it too. And it's just,
Hmm.
what breaks my heart every time I go down to Texas and I tell people, oh my God, they're taking your voting rights. Oh my God, your trans rights, your women's rights, your gay rights, your black rights. Every time I talk to people, nobody cares. It's always like, man, that stuff is so negative. I'm just going to focus on me and my family. And, and that's it, because they do whatever they want. And I'm like,
Hmm. Well, see, but I think what happens in that case, and I think we've talked about this too. I know we have a few times.
mm-hmm,
The disenfranchisement happens, right?
mm-hmm.
Where you start to certain ethnic groups who they feel like their voice is not heard or nothing will change, and there's a point where they just start to feel that nothing they do will matter because
Mm-hmm.
they continually see that it seemingly doesn't matter. It hasn't helped them. It hasn't changed. So I think what you and I have to do is sort of still keep the optimism there and try to continue just to tell people why it's
Yeah.
important, right? Because we've
Yeah.
talked about that too. It's like we can't just keep telling everybody, calling people out without trying to remedy. Well, why are they not connected? What can we do?
I do that a lot.
Yeah.
I'm always, and why don't people do this? Why don't, and it's like, and no, nobody cares. Like once I started scolding people, it's over. Like nobody's trying to hear that,
Right,
you
right,
know, but
right.
I get so frustrated, but
No,
yeah.
I know. Well, yeah, and I always argue too. I was like, I saw literally people about to tear the streets apart when Beyonce lost Album of the Year.
Right.
And I'm
Right.
like,
And you see it for sports all the time too.
yeah,
Oh,
people were
don't
like,
let somebody lose.
yeah, yeah. But when it
Right.
comes to like the other issues about your own civil liberties and your rights, it's like I don't see as much fervor for the cause for that. So I know. Listen, we can go on
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
forever about that, but
And I'm a lighthearted, fun guy, but when it comes to politics, I'm just like, but no, because
yeah,
like,
yeah. Well, I think people of color, marginalized groups, I think we have a lot more invested in that conversation. So we do
hmm
tend to be more passionate. And I will call out, I will say that we did have nicely and luckily, and I was so excited to see when the George Floyd situation
hmm
happened, we did see in that instance, all
That
around the
gave me hope.
world,
It gave me hope. We can
right?
do it. It's
People look
yes,
different. They were,
yes.
I think, other people who weren't black were saying we're tired of it, and that's what has to
hmm
happen, right?
hmm
We step outside of our own group
That's
and
what it
care about
takes.
what happens to other people as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I need
yeah.
to go fight for Muslim people. I need to go fight for Asian people. Anybody. Like,
Hmm.
that's what it takes. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. That's a great way to pivot to a more positive note on that conversation.
Okay. Yeah. Get me out of here.
So, all right. So back to something more lighthearted. Back to your performance and your performing in your journey. So, when did your interest in being an actor or performer begin? And with that in mind, was there like this one moment where you really said, "Okay, that's what I want to do"?
I was always starved for attention, always class clown. In second grade, in order for the teacher to keep me calm, she would say, if you behave, I'm going to give you 30 minutes in front of the class. And I would read, I would, whatever. Oh,
Right,
yeah, no,
right.
like she'd have to bribe me with time, with attention. So, so that was that. And then in junior high, I got interested in theater, but there were some mean teachers that ran me off. Like, I don't know, like teachers and I think I had too much of a smart mouth, wanted to be class clown. I got on people's nerves. So I was discouraged from theater, didn't do anything until I was like 27 in Houston. Vincent Victoria, who does plays down there, cast me out of nowhere to be lead in his play. I don't know where he got the phase. I don't know where he got the anything. And so I did it and I got the bug. From there, I was interested. I was doing other shows. And I did apartment management in Houston. Beautiful apartments, Broadstone skyline by downtown. And I was applying for jobs on the clock in New York. I was in a relationship that was failing with a guy whom I still love, but we don't talk about that. But, and I wish you'd stop bringing it up, please, because I don't
Okay,
want
I
to talk
will.
about
My
him.
bad. My
Okay,
bad. My
right. How dare you?
bad.
No, and so I hated my job. I hated my life. The relationship was falling apart. I wanted to live in New York so bad. It was 2018. I applied for a job at the Metropolitan Opera. I got offered an audition. So I put in all this, I put in vacation time, everything. Everybody knew I hated my job. I was number one at sales. I was killing it. but they hated working with me because I didn't do my paperwork. I'm fun, I'm a key, but working with you sucks. And I'm like, I get it, I hate it.
Wait,
You
let
know,
me just ask you
so
right there. Do you mean are you like more like structure is not your thing, so to speak, in that sort of way? Is that kind of
yeah,
the reason
because
why? Yeah.
like I was selling, I was everything. Sales were bad. Like they loved me. But when it got to the paperwork and the follow through, nothing.
Right,
Yeah,
right,
and
right.
they had to threaten me like we're not going to give you a commission if you don't follow through. So I'd be sitting there, but the sales were coming anyway. So I put in vacation time. Everybody knew I hated my job. They knew the plan, but I was like, I'm gonna go audition. So I did it. I was at the Met and I went back to my hotel. They offered me the job. And I called my mom. I was like, what I do? I want to live here. She said, if you don't move over there, I'm so sick of hearing you talk about that.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was, yeah. And I was like, okay, okay. So I quit my job. I just did it. From there, I moved to a Airbnb in Canarsie. Because when I was in Manhattan, I was like, oh my God, this is my Sex and the City dream. Like, I could
Right,
do
right,
this. This
right.
is
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
And then I was bleeding out money at that hotel. So I said, I need to find an Airbnb until I find a permanent place. So I've this trans woman, Gigi's Blue House in Canarsie. She let me stay in her couch for a discounted rate. It was a blessing. She was so good to me. But I looked around Canarsie and I was like, this is not it. I can't leave my life for this.
Right.
You know,
That's
so I found something,
Canoisi is
you
not
know,
quite the
right.
experience, but yeah.
It was literally
I
at
know.
the end of the L train, like just
Hmm.
deep Brooklyn. Anyway, so I found a place in Harlem with a Senegalese couple. Stayed there a couple months, had a bunch of stuff shipped over, went through the breakup, and at the Met, I was just now the Met is right in front of Juilliard. There is a literal skyline, like a pipeline that goes from Juilliard to the Met. I'm the asshole that just came off the street from Houston with no classical training, and they throw
Mm.
me in an opera, and I was so intimidated. I was so I felt so inadequate. It just, but I had to push
Mm.
through. Like it was my biggest dream, and I don't know any of the technical terms.
Right,
Just even
right.
on stage, like I had to
Arpeggio
fake
or staccato,
all
arpeggio.
of
And
it.
you're
I
like,
mean,
what? Yeah.
even basic stuff like right, we're gonna tableau at this. Like, what does that mean? I can't read the
Right.
schedule. I couldn't, but I just had to push through. I just had to make it through. And and there I learned about background TV and movie work. And so
Mm.
I started, and from there, I started doing background and stuff. It wasn't until my third year that no, yeah, the third year that I'm walking around like a little mouse. I think I'm in everybody's way. I'm trying to plug in my phone to a charger, and the head of my department, Jillian, looks at me and she says, Hugh, you belong here. It's okay. You don't have,
Mm.
this is your space too.
Wow.
And
Wow. Changes
oh yeah,
everything, right?
it
Changes
did.
everything.
It did. I get so emotional thinking about it because, like,
Mm.
I felt home. I'm in my fifth
Well,
year now, you
oh
know?
man, well, and that's so wonderful. And I will just say, I remember like when you first were like here. I don't know what the hell happened to this day. I'm still trying to figure it out. Like we were gonna meet. Like you were at one
Hmm.
Marriott Courtyard, and I'm like, I'm there. You're like, I'm there too. I'm like, no, you can't be because I'm there. I'm not sure what
That was
happened. So
like
we still
day
have.
three. Yeah, that
Yeah,
was
you had just
literally
got
day
here.
three. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like trying to, because I was like, I gotta meet this guy. He's so amazing, and because I had chronicled, I had watched you you told the whole story on social media. I saw it. I saw
Hmm.
you auditioned, you got to New York, you were posting like, I don't know where I'm gonna live. I'm just gonna figure it out when I get here. And
Hmm.
why that's important to stress is because on this show, I speak to some of the biggest CEOs in this country, most successful people sometimes, in the world that we have on these shows and on this show in particular. And very often, one of the common denominators that has gotten them where they are is this um, moment that life threw at them, where they had a choice to either stay complicit in what they were doing or take a
Hmm.
serious chance on themselves, not
Hmm.
knowing where they were going to land, not knowing how it was going to turn out, maybe not even knowing to do the job, as you just said. A guy, the CEO of Chuck E. Cheese said he had this big opportunity to go work for Disney, and they're like, "Hey, we want you to be the head of blah 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 blah. Can you do it?" He was like, "Yeah, I can do it."
Fake it till you, yeah. Yeah, fake it till
He
you
was
make
like,
it,
"Okay,
yeah.
right. I'll say yes, and then I'll figure it out when I get there." So I was fascinated by then, and then the next thing I saw, you had posted this beautiful backstage photo of you like in costume. You were like Egyptian or something at the Met.
Aida.
Right. Aida.
Yeah.
And I was just floored by that. And so anyway, congratulations on that. Because that's a
Thank
big
you.
deal, man. And people were watching and rooting for you. And you know, that's I just found it to be fascinating. Now, so you said Texas prepared you in a way for New York because you were sort of
Houston
dying.
specifically.
Houston
Yeah.
specifically. Were there any correlations between New York and Houston as far as being major cities, or were they really different for you?
They're very different and the same. You know, in Houston, I would be in rooms where this person is speaking Japanese, this one's speaking Russian, this one's speaking Arabic. You know, so those little moments prepared me. Like I wasn't in such wonder, and every conversation didn't start with "Where are you from?"
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I'm able to just talk. Like so, it prepared me for a lot. And it's really crowded, but it's nothing like New York. So you know, I don't want to play they're all the same, but
Right. Right.
it's kind of it overlaps when it
Yeah.
wants to.
Yeah.
You know.
And so Aida was your first big sort of like marker, like, well, I can do this. Someone I auditioned and someone has validated that I can do this. And so you do it. So what are some of the other jobs you booked on television? Because you were popping up like everywhere for a minute. I was like, well, damn, save some work for everybody else, bro. Like, so what are some of the shows you worked on?
Well, but first, let me say I have so much to be grateful for. New York and God and the world has been so good to me. It really, like, I started at 34. This is a young industry. Coming from apartments, like, I get so emotional thinking about it. I really, like, you know, but, you know, I started doing, the first job that I did was Billions. That was interesting. It
Okay.
was at the St. Gennaro Festival in Little Italy. And then from there, I was just hungry and I was starving for the camera. I've done Pose, Law and Order, For Life, this prison show.
I
My
saw
two,
that. Yeah.
yeah, like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
one day as a background, now background is the bottom of the totem pole. Nobody respects that, but you learn so much. Oh, nobody does.
Right.
It's,
Right.
you
Right.
know,
Right.
yeah, like even when SAG talks about it, like, you know, I love SAG, no disrespect, but background isn't the main conversation piece. But
Yeah.
yeah, so you know, I did all these shows, and the dream is that hopefully you get upgraded. Hopefully they'll see you, and it happened to me. I did this one show with Nicole Kidman and Hugh Grant, The Undoing. First lines I ever got, I was sitting there with a cute sweater, and Wardrobe was walking around. They said, "Oh, we like your sweater." They talked to each other, and you know, next thing you know, I have a line,
Wow.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, like you know,
And
and the
that's a
same
big
thing
deal
happened.
because that's how you get into unions, right? When you actually get the work where you have lines and you can sort of get into the next, the upper echelon of the profession.
Well, you can get in the union with background work. You just need three Tav Harleys, which is, you know, you're not in the union, but production comes up to you and says, "Would you like to be a union player today?" Yeah, you have all the union benefits, the pay and everything, and you get that waiver. Three of those make you eligible for the union.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then so I did background work. I did Hustlers with J Lo, Cardi B. I was there one day, the one day that mattered. Usher was there, Cardi B, Keke Palmer, Lizzo, J
Wow.
Lo, like, and I'm just doing background. Like, I mean, nobody was talking to me, like, but you know,
But still,
it was
I
beautiful.
mean,
Yeah,
yeah.
I joined.
I mean,
I was eligible.
from the dreams of Houston to being on set with that caliber of people. Yeah. Amazing.
Let me tell you, season one of Pose, I was in Houston with my then best friend Darcel, and we were in my living room smoking, watching Pose, and I just looked at him, and I longingly I said, "That looks like so much fun. I would love to do that. I would love to be in that show." And then fast forward, thanks to the Met, um, I was on Pose, and it was
Yeah.
so much fun. Like
And you were
we
visibly there. Like I saw you on Pose. Like I was just telling you off camera. I was like, "Yo!" Like everybody wanted to be on that show, and I turned on the TV, and there you were, like, "Da, da, da, da." You know. I was like, "Look at this guy." I was so, but I'm so happy for you because I knew the struggle. Like I knew what you had, what you had accomplished to get there. That's Ryan Murphy. That's not a small accomplishment, even to be a day player or an extra. That's a big deal.
absolutely, and I
Hmm.
became eligible for the union so quick. And I took my time because I didn't have the money to pay for it, so I waited.
Yeah.
Finally joined, and right now we're on strike, which is partly why
Hmm.
I'm wearing the shirt. Oh, I shouldn't be
Right.
talking
Right.
about these shows. But anyway,
Well, no, we're talking about them in the context of the shows are great, and let's also say the writers should be paid
my work was
better.
great, and we should all be paid. Okay.
Right. Period.
No,
That's what we're gonna say about them.
right,
Right.
right. No, no, no. But so we just had an election in SAG, and I ran for a position, for a delegate
Yes.
position. Now, mind you,
Hmm.
coming from Texas, it's an anti-union state. They teach us. They don't. First of all, they keep us in the dark about unions. I didn't even know what Labor Day was about.
Mm.
And I joined the union. I ran. I'm a delegate now. I won. I campaigned and won a
Well,
position. So
yes. I saw that you were
from
campaigning on that, and I didn't know how the election went. So you actually, so people voted for you, basically, you're saying, and you won
yeah.
as a delegate represent. So you represent a certain, like New York, or how does that
So
work? Like,
there's a
what's your
number of us
actual?
that represent New York, but I'm an access point for members who want to, you know, direct information to council or anybody. One of the biggest
Mm,
things that we do or that I do is I write resolutions that could go on the Constitution for SAG, and if I get it endorsed by enough people, then it'll go on to be debated and it can be adopted. My current resolution is the biggest issue that I have. Union politics are just like regular politics. Nobody votes, but everybody is super
Nobody
mad.
complains.
Oh,
Yeah.
everybody's mad, everybody has strong opinions, and some people think maybe we should tear it all down, but nobody votes.
Mm, right.
So,
Right.
my success is going to be measured by member turnout at the next election.
Mm,
So, I submitted a resolution. I'm getting endorsements now because everybody's confused about what are the dates? What can we do? When is this like there shouldn't be this much confusion. I
right.
suggest we do a text alert to all the members. You have to go out of your way to opt out of it. But everybody gets a
Mm,
text alert for super important dates. There's no reason why anybody should be out of communication. And let's see if we can bring up voter engagement with that.
right.
Because there's no excuse. I didn't know. Why didn't they tell me? I don't live there anymore. I don't
Mm,
check my email.
right.
Okay, we all have a phone. So
What a
let's
simple
try that.
resolution too, right? Because that's like bringing them forward to the modern technology
Mm-hmm.
with very simple technology, but it's like bringing them forward to actually, just
Engagement.
kind of be
Yeah.
engagement, right? And it's something like you said, we all have a phone, and regular elections do sort of, I mean, certain action committees for election parties, they do text you to say, "Hey, are you registered to vote? Have you done this?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know your candidates in your district? Do you know what district you're in when you vote?" Like, yeah. So, I mean, something so simple as that. And congratulations. I mean, I saw that you were running. I'm like, now he's entering in entertainment politics, and you won that too. So,
What?
I just think you're on fire. I
What?
think you're on fire. Yeah. And I
Man.
think it's great. I mean, again, what the lesson here that I even learned from you, and I did, I said, there were times when I was not as aggressive as I needed to be in my own pursuits. And a very few times I would watch and I say, you know what? I got to like get some of that, what he's doing. I got to remember that I was that guy once that went for it and didn't get caught up in like, well, tomorrow. It's a reminder that
Mm-hmm.
nothing's going to fall in your lap unless you go for it. So, I just think that it's an inspirational story. So, let me ask you now. We just talked about the strike. Now, let's say hypothetically, think hopefully soon the strike is over. And what would be a
The
dream
writer's
TV
strike may
show?
end tonight. There's a
Oh,
big
really?
probability it could end tonight. Yeah.
Okay. Y'all
So
heard it here first.
come
Y'all heard it
on.
here first.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed. Yeah, because I don't want them beating up Drew Barrymore no more.
Okay. The
Um,
View is next. They're targeting The View next.
I know, but I did hear, not to get off topic, but I did hear that there's this very interesting thing at The View where The View, like a year ago or so, was added to the news division, so it's not a scripted show under
Mm.
TV and SAG. Yeah, so I heard that ABC
They're
sort of
pretty
did that.
newsy. That makes
Yeah,
sense. That makes sense.
yeah. That's what they and that's how they actually are able to continue without crossing the picket line. So in that regard, we don't know. But let's just say writer strike ends tonight, and you were to get the phone call of the dream TV show that you'd love to be cast on, what would it be?
And just like that,
Oh,
I'm
really?
I'm living in Manhattan. One of the biggest
Hmm.
reasons is I was the biggest Sex and the City fan. The
Yeah.
biggest Sex and the City fan. So me, like every other jerk, was motivated by that to move up here.
Yeah.
So, and I told my manager, that is the goal. We will forego everything for that.
To be
So a
on just like
reoccurring
that.
role on that. Yeah, it
Oh
really
my
would.
gosh.
I don't care what it
Yeah.
is.
Mr. Hugh Jones, who's I have to say your Instagram name is hilarious. It's Hugh York City, which is a very funny Instagram handle. So people, you should follow him. We're gonna have make sure his Instagram handle is in the podcast notes when you guys take a look. And so, Hugh, thanks for being here today. We appreciate it. Thanks for being on Motivational Mondays.
Thank you so much. And remember, Black progress is brown progress. I am reaping the benefits of the Black progress. Please keep it going. And if I can help in any way, you got me.